Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with an overview and an install of this Ford Performance Street Handling Pack for the 2015 and newer S550 GT and EcoBoost Mustang. In this video, we're going to cover a few topics with this handling pack. We're going to talk about the different components, the performance you can expect, and go over the install as well. I'll get into more detail later, but I can tell you right now that the install for this kit isn't hard, but there are quite a few pieces, so it's going to be a little time consuming and a little bit of work. That being said, I'm going to call this install a 2 out of 3 wrenches in the difficulty meter. The Ford Performance Street Handling Pack is going to be a good option for the S550 owners out there that are looking to do some handling upgrades to get their car to perform like a Performance Pack Mustang. If you're looking for the handling characteristics of that Performance Pack car, but you missed out on getting that package when you purchased your Mustang, this kit is going to get you there. This kit includes all of the same components that come with the Performance Pack, and it's a complete suspension upgrade kit. What's more is that you have the peace of mind to know that all of the components are going to work well together and that all of the most important areas of the suspension are taken care of. This kit is some of the most important suspension upgrades that are really going to change the handling performance of the car. It has the Performance Pack front and rear shocks and struts, a set of Ford Performance's street lowering springs, Performance Pack front and rear sway bars with bushings, Performance Pack rear toe links, all the required hardware, and front and rear jounce bumpers. So if you didn't get a Performance Pack car, then the factory suspension is set up more for having a comfortable ride quality and being easy to drive than anything else, which is why there's so much room for improvement. Performance-based minds want something more than comfortable, they want effective, and this handling pack is going to help get you there. Usually in order to get better suspension performance, you need to take away some ride quality, since a lot of the ride quality comes from soft rubber bushings and components that allow for twisting. Taking away too much comfort, however, leads to an uncomfortable ride. Notice all the little bumps in the road. Overall, this kit does give a stiffer than factory ride quality when you compare it to the non-Performance Pack cars, but it's still a factory suspension, so you know it isn't going to be rough at all. We're going to talk a little about each component, and the first thing we're looking at is the Ford Racing Street Lowering X springs. These springs are going to have an even 1-inch drop all the way around the car, which doesn't sound like much, but that's a pretty decent drop for the S550 chassis. The S550s respond a lot more to a little bit of a drop from a lowering spring, so it doesn't take much to get these cars looking and driving better. The springs are enough to make a noticeable difference in both handling and looks. The street springs do have a progressive spring rate, which means that they're a good option for a street car. They don't have a harsh ride quality, but they will firm up as you start pushing the car, which works to give you the best of both worlds between comfortable and functional. Moving on to the shocks and struts, you're looking at pre-assembled front struts with a new upper strut mount, which is nice because Ford Racing is taking a little bit of the work out of the install for you. You won't need a spring compressor now, since these things are ready to just go right into place. Then you have your rear shocks as well, and I'll say that these shocks and struts are better designed for lowered cars, and they're also made to complement the Ford Racing springs and sway bars. So we all know that all of these parts work very closely together, so when you start upgrading things like lowering springs and sway bars, you have to keep in mind things like spring rate and sway bar thickness and setup. With an assembled kit like this, you have the comfort of knowing that all of these components are going to work well together. Moving on to the front and rear sway bars, the Performance Pack sway bars are thicker in diameter than the non-Performance Pack sway bars. These are solid steel construction bars, which are a big upgrade over the factory bars, but the downside here is that they do have some weight to them. Like I said before, these bars are designed to work with the progressive springs that are included in the kit. They are not adjustable, so if you're looking for an adjustable sway bar, Ford Performance does have a track pack handling kit that'll come with adjustable sway bars. It is different than this kit, but you can always check it out anyways. The last thing we're looking at here are those toe links, and these are going to help you a little bit with wheel hop and even in the corners. They give some stability to the IRS and help reduce some of the unwanted handling characteristics. Now keep in mind that while all of these components are the major suspension upgrades and they're designed to work together to improve handling, they're not the only components that you can upgrade. There are always other ways to improve upon the S550 platform based off how you'd like your car to perform, but this is still a good step towards making some changes. Even though these aren't a huge upgrade, we're just upgrading to Performance Pack specs here, you can expect to eliminate some wheel hop, have less nosedive during hard braking, better cornering ability, and a lower center of gravity for an overall more planted car, and having a more stable rear, which allow for harder launches and keeping the suspension more consistent and planted no matter what you're doing with your car. As far as price, this kit is going to be just south of $1,000. Now I will say that picking up an assembled kit will save you a few dollars over purchasing each component of the kit individually. You probably could mix brands and piece together your own kit, but you do run the risk of missing out on some ride quality and performance just from the fact that these pieces are all made to work together. But piecing your own kit is always an option if you don't have the budget for a kit like this. You also have to keep in mind that this exact kit will get you the Performance Pack upgrade, and this suspension does come from the factory on some cars, so you can expect a perfect fit and highly functional components. So the install here is a lot of work, but I wouldn't say that it's a difficult install. Like I said earlier, I'm going to call this one a 2 out of 3 wrenches just because you are doing a bit of an overhaul. It's all straightforward and you won't need any tools out of the ordinary, especially since the front springs are already installed on the struts. You just need to get your stock springs out. You need an assortment of different sockets and wrenches, and if you decide to tackle this yourself, you can expect to spend about 6 hours. Having a lift is going to make things a lot easier here, but you can complete the install with a jack and stands. You'll also have to keep in mind that you'll want to go for an alignment after the install is all completed. You're tweaking pretty much of the suspension here, so it's necessary to get that alignment. So ultimately, you're going to need to get down to the spring and strut assemblies, so everything like the wheels, brakes, ABS lines will need to be moved out of the way, so you can pull the assemblies out of the car. The front spring and strut install is very straightforward. The rear is a little bit different because the IRS subframe will be dropped, along with the rear shock mount, so you can slide the rear springs out and get your new shocks in. And getting the sway bars and toe links out is really only a few bolts. You might need to pop out your airbox to get to some of the bolts for the front sway bar, and the majority of the bolts can be removed from reaching down through the engine bay, except for the end link bolts, of course. And the rear is even easier to get to. You can get to all your bolts from below the car. All these parts are reinstalled the same way that the factory ones came out, and like I said, this is a good amount of work to get done, but it's not difficult. Wrapping things up here, the Ford Performance Street Handling Pack comes with lowering springs, front and rear shocks and struts, front and rear sway bars, and rear toe links. This kit is going to upgrade your non-Performance Pack Mustang and give it the same handling abilities that the Performance Pack cars have, and as always, I suggest you check this out more online for yourself. For all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.